My name's Narayan, and I live here in Montreal in Spain. I help facilitate the Mastery of the Self retreats here. It does take courage to step onto this path, not because it's difficult or because it's dangerous, but because you have to step out of what society is telling you is the normal way to live. And becoming a father has been the most amazing experience for me because I see the wonder and the innocence of the pure awareness that Sophia is. She's living the experience. She has no fear. She has no regret. She has no major patterns in place, you know? She's just joy. And it's just another place where I'm reminded of what we're here to experience. There's no need for that to disappear. A lot of my adult life, when I would see a child in the street, I would get a tear, a little pull in my heart at the potential loss of innocence there. But what it really was this regret that I'd lost mine, that I'd forgotten, and I didn't know how to return to it. I didn't even feel worthy of returning to it.
I think babies and children are so sensitive and so receptive to energy and to intentions and also to when parent is stressed or not. You know, and any time I have gotten agitated or reactive or something, Sophia's an instant mirror. She'll reflect back that, is that funny? She'll reflect back that, Mom, you need to chill out. You know, she'll get a bit more cranky, she'll get a bit more fussy, and it's almost as though it becomes a battle of wills. And then I realized, hang on a sec, I'm trying to control this situation. And the moment I let go, she relaxes. I mean, it's quite amazing. Oftentimes when I'm putting her to bed at night, I'll just meditate, and she must feel it because she ends up going to sleep. It's better than any kind of nursery rhyme or you know, CD. I remember when I was 15, everything started to change inside of me, and it felt like all of the people in my life, including my family, but also my friends, my teacher, everybody, it seemed like they had masks on. They had one mask for their teacher, and then they had another mask for their boyfriend, and then they had another mask for this friend, and nobody seemed real. And it bugged me. And then I realized I didn't even know how to be, because I didn't know who I was. And so there was this fervent desire to find out who I was. And I knew that it was going to be more than, all right, I'm a 15-year-old girl, I'm from Michigan. I knew it was more than that, but I didn't know what it was. I really started to ask the big questions, you know, who am I? Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? And I took philosophy classes, and they were interesting for about a week. And I realized it was just a bunch of mental information, and it didn't satisfy me. And so I finished high school. I went to a year university, and I thought, this isn't for me. I'm not learning what I really want to know. So I took off traveling, much to my parents' chagrin. So I had the backpack, the dog named Eclipse, and my hair became in dreadlocks. And I just traveled around the United States looking for the truth. Finally, a year later, I climbed to the top of this mountain. I just said, I'm ready. I want to be shown who I am. I want to wake up. I want to live my life's purpose. Help, because I don't know what that is. And I kind of waited for something to happen, you know, like a rainbow or a clap of thunder, and nothing happened. So I was like, okay. So I climbed back down the mountain, and as soon as I got down, I ran into this gentleman who'd I'd known before, and he gave me a book. And the book was called Ascension by MSI, and I read it cover to cover. And then he said, out of the blue, I really feel to offer to pay for a retreat for you. And so, you know, I'm 19 years old. I thought, oh, cool, a retreat, okay. I had no idea what it was about. So I got myself there, and once I learned the techniques, for me anyway, I thought, this is it.
I grew up in a household where my mom was very Christian. Right from as young as I can remember, actually, I had a burning desire to serve God somehow, to find some purpose. I knew there was something that I was here to do. But something I always knew that representation, what Jesus represented, was an inner path to having a direct experience of God within. I knew that. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew that. God is a word that sparks a lot of concepts in people and a lot of reactionary concepts in people because it's such a loaded word. For me, it isn't a loaded word. It clearly is a word that, in the language that I've developed in this lifetime, fits the experience. It's not some separate being. It's not some experience which is outside of you. It's this free space of your own awareness that lies just beyond the movement of the mind. You can call it light. You could call it love. You could call it freedom. You could call it joy. Whatever you call it is irrelevant, but to experience it is the invitation of your entire life. There was always this sense of something missing inside. And sometimes that was just a gentle kind of, this isn't quite it. And sometimes it was quite a dark place to be. So there was a lot of extremes in the way that I experienced it, but it was constant. And so I was always very, very non-committed with anything that other people would consider the normal path in life. There was a lot of great opportunities that came to me, but I never really gave myself to them because I was always waiting for this divine purpose to come. Over the years, in my 20s especially, I tried lots of different meditations, but they weren't filling the hole. In fact, they were making it more apparent. I didn't know what the experience was, but it wasn't bringing that experience. When I first heard about the Ishayas, everything inside me lit up. I knew that this was my path. I knew this was what I'd been waiting for from the beginning. The first time I ascended, I closed my eyes, I introduced the first technique, and everything disappeared. Every sense of a limited individual me disappeared into this space that was absolutely aware, perfectly free. I can't tell you in words really how profound that experience was, but it was a living experience that there was nothing else but pure awareness, and I was that. And so when the teachers called us back from the meditation and said, "How was that for you?" my mouth must have been 5 feet open because she looked at me directly in a room of 40 people and said, "How was that for you?" And the truth was, it was the beginning of my life for sure.
You know, these meditation techniques were so straightforward, so simple, so direct, so beyond the mind, which is what I was looking for. And, you know, upon using them for the first time, they just took me to a place of really deep peace inside. And it felt like I was coming home. I think that's a lot of what my travels were. I was looking for my place, and I made the mistake of thinking that my place was outside. You know, it was Arizona, it was California, it was Colorado, and it wasn't any of those places. It was inside, but I had no idea how to get there. And so meditation helped me to get to the home inside. And I turned 20 years old, and I knew that that was it. This was supposed to be my path. I knew. A lot of the people that I met there at the retreat were familiar in a strange way. Even though I'd never met them, they seemed familiar. My parents totally thought I joined a cult. So much so that my dad, who's from Michigan, drove down 10 hours to where I was with my brother, who's, you know, 6'4" and 230 pounds and with a baseball bat to break me out. So they got down there and they realized, you know what, she's actually more together than she has been in the last few years when I was traipsing around America. And he saw that I was relaxed, I was at peace. He saw that the other people there didn't have a glazed look in their eye. They weren't drinking Kool-Aid. And you know, he gave his blessing. It was beautiful. And then, you know, maybe 6 years later, he learned as well. And he's like a normal, all-American guy, you know. Back then, he wasn't religious by any means, but for him, when he first used the techniques, it was beautiful. He opened his eyes, and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "I just feel like I was in the presence of God." My dad said that. So meditation, it works.
The people we come into contact with already know that there's something else they could be experiencing, more of themselves they could be experiencing. For them, it's a real desire. And so the questioning really is, and all the questions are rooted in what's holding me back from that. And the simplest answer is this: identification with a thought. What's stopping you being everything you can be? Identification with a thought. And how do you become everything you can be? You need to learn to let the thought go. You don't need to fix it or heal it or change the nature of the thought. You just simply need to remember how to let thought go, to stop identifying with the movement of the mind. Because when you let go of that, what's left is already free. What's left is an experience. No words, no concepts about it come close to the experience. But when you can learn to distance yourself from the movement of the mind, what you are, who you are, why you're here becomes transparently clear, immediately. At some point, everybody has to remember who they are. But for those that want to, it's not hard. It's right here, and the opportunity exists. You just need to find a path that'll actually do what it says on the tin and bring you home.